Welcome to Women's Radio 2. And now, of course, I'm sure most of you know that we not only include an abundance of wonderful women, but now we're also inviting men of good heart to Women's Radio. And that's why we have the extra two, TOO, meaning we also include men. Great men, just like the great women that we have. Today, I think you guys are really going to enjoy my guest. I think that probably you'll find that you're very simpatico, that you share a lot of likes and values in common. And I'm very, very happy to introduce my guest, Cynthia Rivard. And Cynthia is considered a spiritual teacher, an energy teacher. If I miss anything, Cynthia, you remind them, okay? And she has a new book coming out. And her book is entitled Hope for a New Era, Turning the Tide, Love and Leadership Through Turbulent Times. Boy, that is like the perfect title. And I'm so excited to have you. I can't wait to hear all the things that you're into. And also, we want to hear about your book. So don't forget the book.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Pat. It's a delight to be here. And I think I'm going to have to speak quickly. We've got a lot to
If
talk
you
about.
don't get it all in, we'll have to invite you back.
That's awesome. Thank you. Take the pressure off.
Yeah, that's right. Indeed.
Awesome.
So let's just start. Tell us about your book and tell us how you evolved into this, because you've done business, you've been in business leadership and other things as well.
Yes.
So
Yes.
What tripped the wire for you?
Oh, I love sharing this story. So I came very late in life to a spiritual awakening, what people call a spiritual awakening, which is not this nebulous thing, or, if somebody hasn't used that term before, it just basically means you recognize that you're able to receive communication and develop a personal relationship with spirit or the great creator, or whatever you call divinity. And, a lot of people learn in different religions to pray and have a one-way communication. But when you recognize that you can tap in to what I call inner wisdom, that divinity in you, and receive communication from it, that is your spiritual awakening. You are awake, but then that communication is a skill to develop. And, each of us are at different paths and that or spots in our journey to develop it. I very, very quickly became crystal clear in the communication coming through. It's called channeling, which also seemed like a very scary term to me, but all it means is I receive communication from my inner wisdom, and it's very clear. So to get back to your question, I had not been clearly receiving communication for very long when I started receiving like full sentences in written form, and I was guided to write a book. And the first couple that came through, I was then told, well, we're going to just put that on a shelf. It's not time yet to share that message. And finally, I revisited pieces of it and was guided to put together Hope for a New Era, which is the book that was just released a couple months ago, actually, in June. Or wait, where are we now? Anyway, it's recently released this summer. And it's just basically the message is we are at a time in human evolution where it's time for us to evolve and move into our next chapter. And that includes, we can see the mess around us. The world is just a mess because of the heavy emotions people are embroiled in, which we can clear, we can dissipate and get rid of those trapped emotions. But the heavy emotions and the wrong choices, and now is the time to move out of that by raising human consciousness and start to lead with love and compassion. Most of the world's problems And that's a big generality, but most of it was created by greed and poor choices. Well, no, I would say that's all of them. So
I would
when
too.
more people recognize the divinity within them and raise their consciousness and start leading with compassion. And there are many people, I'm sure, in your audience who are compassionate, but to recognize that you can lead through your compassion and show through your example, and start that ripple effect with other people making all of their decisions through that lens of how to better help the world around you. We can't impact the entire world, but we can impact our sphere of influence. And I know you have an audience or listeners who are very influential in their work, but they're also influential, perhaps without recognizing it, outside of work, in their communities, with everyone they interact with. We have influence, and we lead with our energy and our compassion and how we show up and interact with the grocery clerk as we're going through the line, or the people we're talking to in line. We influence and have an impact all the time. So I got a little bit off on a tangent. I apologize,
That's
but
okay.
this new era that we're on the cusp of, and it's been talked about in different religious traditions with different names. Buddhists talk about nirvana,
Mhm.
and Christians refer to paradise on earth, or new heaven on the new earth. Uh, New Age spiritualists talk about the new earth. And that time is upon us. The frequencies have started to expand. And I know we were going to talk about manifesting, so we'll talk more about
Yes,
frequencies.
that was what I was coming to next.
But the frequencies for humans, we each have a human emotional frequency that's a set point for us. And a lot of people misunderstand and think that they can raise their vibe, their frequency, by thinking positive thoughts or being in a positive mood. And you can't. That's not how it works. But we can be intentional and raise our frequency, since the scale of human emotional frequency expanded. Most people's frequency wants to rise. It may be trapped by trapped emotions that'll keep the frequency from rising, or it could be affected by just a very low frequency environment, or being around people without a very high frequency that may keep your frequency from rising. So if you're
Yeah.
wondering, well, what do I do about that? The first thing is to learn how to tell where your frequency is. And then if it's stuck, if it doesn't move and go up in a month or so, you probably have trapped emotions, and that can easily be diffused by an energy master. And then get out in nature. That is the biggest way to get your frequency up there, at least to a million bioenergy units, because that's the frequency of nature.
Wow. Well, I think
So
there's so many things I'd really like to ask you about. I know that you talked about not the law of attraction, but the law of manifestation. And I think that it's interesting. We were talking before we started recording about people who are more familiar now with increasing it, or that things are made of energy, and that
mhm.
energy, we swim in energy basically, and that we are affected by energy and we give out energy. Yeah. And it occurred to me when you were talking about someone's energy could be elevated, that isn't it kind of a natural phenomenon that everything is expanding, and so energy does have a tendency to want to get bigger or move out, or
Well, our frequency, there has been a scale for human emotional frequency that tapped out for humans around 800 bioenergy units. And that scale was recently, a couple years ago, actually expanded exponentially so that our personal emotional frequency can expand much, much higher. And the benefit of this, first of all, is at the higher frequencies, it's easier to connect with our divine aspect, our
That's good to
divinity,
know.
because they operate at a very high frequency. So as our frequency rises, it's easier to connect. And then, you know, when we hit a certain point in frequency and we're connected and have that relationship with divinity, they'll help us raise our consciousness.
So how can you tell whether you are doing things that will raise that energy? How can you know that?
By measuring your frequency regularly. It's not going to go down. We have kind of a set or resting point. Again, it's not affected by your general emotions, but it's good to know where it is and that you are in a high frequency environment to lift it, because it works a little bit if you're around in an environment like nature that's high enough, it'll work like a magnet. If your frequency is not stuck, it will help lift you.
That's
Riding horses or being around and interacting with cows, they have very high, not as high as nature, but they have very high frequencies. The
How do you
animals
measure
do.
that? How do people go about measuring that, or how do you know?
Well, I know we're short on time, so if it's okay, I'm just going to mention that I have a free resource on this on
Okay,
my
great.
website, as
Okay.
well as a lot of free trainings on my YouTube channel. So
Oh, perfect.
and I have a link through my website to that as
I'm going to
well.
look for
So
you on YouTube.
yes, please do. Yeah, I put a lot of time and effort into those trainings, and they're all free. I feel like my spiritual knowledge is not something I want to gatekeep. I'm putting it out there to help people, because this is our time. We need to raise our frequency and the general level of human consciousness so that we can, as a collective, evolve and create a better world.
Somebody said to me that things used to be, or the word was, what's in it for me? And now people are turning more to, how can I serve you?
That, well, you know, that each one of us has an overriding life purpose. And of course, you know, the nuances just depend on our life's journey, but an overriding purpose of how we are meant to serve others. General purpose, but it always has to do with serving others, not
I agree.
ourselves, obviously. We're meant to serve others. So thank you for bringing that up.
I think there's probably a deeper reason for all of that too, that I've never heard anybody articulate. But if that's true, you can see why it works. If you're doing that, you literally get, in a sense, outside of yourself. You're and you are being called for to help people heal, or to, you know, raise their happiness level, or any number of ways that you might say that, I can imagine. But I do think it's interesting that people are now talking in that direction.
Yeah, well, we lost ourselves for a little while with this competitive, individualistic society. We are by instinct tribal, and we thrive in community. And what is a community but a group that supports and helps one another and looks out for one another? And it
Amen.
doesn't have to be your next door neighbor, but everyone needs a support system. And we need to be intentional about finding that and reaching out and helping each other.
I totally agree. I think that's coming out more and more. I'm very interested in real estate and housing, and uh, especially in the inner cities and so forth. And an overarching theme that I have is creating community, and it touches on so many of the things you're talking about. That people, it's been shown in, even in the blue areas, the thing that really is the marker for people having longevity is their ability to have people close to them that they love and who love them, and where they have familiarity and they have things in common with other people. They're not sitting in their own little apartment alone.
We're not meant to live that way. That's right.
Right.
Absolutely.
So give us one thing from your book that we ought to be looking for, and where can people find it, et cetera. We need to make sure that people get
Absolutely.
their hands on the book.
Absolutely. Well, you can find it on Amazon or, online retailers. It's called Hope for a New Era. If you remember my name, cynthiarivard.com is the website, and you'll find links to all of my free resources, my YouTube, and my books. So I encourage everyone to check out the website, actually, just for a one-stop shop. And the one takeaway, and I reiterate this throughout my book, is to learn how to go within, be open to new perspectives, always be open to it. But there's a lot of mistruths and distortions and fake news out there. Always listen and don't push it away right away, but then sit with it and learn to go within and trust your inner wisdom, because the truth will resonate. But don't just take things at face value. Go within. That's the number one skill everyone on this planet could develop.
Well, I want you to come back, because we really didn't dig into part of something that you told me in the very beginning, which is that you did listen, and you were channeled basically the book that we're going to be reading. So I think that I've heard a lot of people ask good questions about, well, really, what is channeling, or how do I listen to that voice? What does it sound like anyway? And how will I know when I've really heard that, and so forth? So I think that there are a lot of good questions, and I would love for you to come back and we could explore some of that.
I would love that. Thank you for
All
the
right.
invite, Pat. I
You
look forward
bet.
to that.
I do too. Well, thank you so much for being my guest, and we will look for the book, and we will also be looking for you on YouTube.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.